So now that we know how the zeros kind of can be found by looking at factored form, we can do some things in reverse with our equation writing. So let's say they asked us for the equation of a parabola. So we know it's quadratic with these two zeros. That's all they'll care. Just give me a quadratic that has those two zeros. Well, if you think about what we were doing in the last video, if my first root is at a positive 7, that means when I plug in a 7 for x, I have to get out a 0 for this parenthesis here. So what I actually need to have here is x minus 7. Because if I have an x minus 7 here, when I plug in a 7, I'm going to get out a 0 for y. So it's kind of the opposite of whatever number you see there. Similarly, in the second one, if my root is at negative 4, that means I'm going to see an x plus 4, because when I plug in for that x right there, if I plug in that negative 4, I get out a 0 for y. This equation will have those two roots, and that's all I really need to do. They don't really mention anything about a. You can make a whatever number you feel like in this problem, because the only thing they said is you have to have those zeros. So you can put a number here, you can leave it alone. It's kind of up to you. Now our second problem here is a little more specific, because in this one, it gives you the roots just like before, but it also gives you a point on the graph. That just makes the problem slightly tougher. So first of all, if my roots are right there, I'm going to leave space here for a, because we don't know what that is yet. But if my first root is at negative 10, that means I'm going to see an x plus 10. And if my second one is at positive 3, that means I have to see an x minus 3, because when you plug them in, you want to get out a 0 for y. That's what it means to be at roots. Now, if it was just that part and this last line wasn't there, we'd be done. But we do have to consider this other thing here. When we plug in a 5 for x, we got to get out a 15 for y. That's because this point is on our graph. So what I'm going to do is actually leave a right there. I'm going to leave the letter a for my number out front because I don't know what it is yet. And what I'm going to do is plug in a 5 for x like I'm supposed to, leaving my a, and I'm going to plug in a 15 for y like I'm supposed to. This is just a regular equation that you can solve now. If you plug in your random points, we have the x, we have the y, we're just going to solve for a. It's the only variable left. So what we end up with here is 15 equals a times 15 times 2. So if you rewrite that, you'll get 15 equals 30a. And it turns out that a equals 15 over 30, divide both sides by 30, which is just 1/2. So my actual equation here, I'm kind of running out of space to write it. I'll put it just in the very bottom here. We know what a is now, so it's going to be y equals 1/2. And then we have our parentheses, x plus 10, x minus 3.